Free primary education has been widely adopted in low-income countries, but whether secondary education should be publicly subsidized is an active debate. On one hand, secondary education is expensive, and making it free implies a transfer to households who are sufficiently well off to pay their own way. On the other, there may be substantial benefits for those who would otherwise be unable to afford school, to say nothing of the broader social benefits of having a more educated population. This paper provides experimental evidence on one of these potential benefits, namely the intergenerational impact of free secondary education. More educated individuals, especially women, may choose and be able to have fewer children, delay childbearing, and invest more in the children they do have. For decades, the claim of intergenerational benefits has motivated the push for girls' education, but rigorous evidence to support it has been lacking. This paper fills that gap by studying a scholarship program in Ghana. While the country enacted free secondary education in 2016, the focus here is a randomized controlled trial that began in 2008. Among a sample of over 2,000 rural youth who were admitted to public high school but were unable to pay the tuition fee, 682 were randomly selected to receive 4-year secondary school scholarships. Prior research has shown that relative to the control group, scholarship recipients were 28 percentage points more likely to complete secondary school and received, on average, 1.33 more years of education. This paper builds on that work and estimates long-term impacts on scholarship recipients and their children. Since 2013, the original study's participants have been regularly surveyed to track their occupation, earnings, and family formation, while data collection on the cognitive development of their children began in 2017. Children were tested at specific milestone ages using locally appropriate tests developed for this research. There are 3 key findings. First, receiving a secondary school scholarship impacts family formation. This figure shows the fraction of females in the control group that reported ever having been pregnant by the year shown. For example, by 2013, 48% of women who had not received a scholarship had had at least one pregnancy. These figures then show the estimated impact of receiving a scholarship. By 2013, female scholarship recipients were 7 percentage points less likely to ever have been pregnant. This is almost entirely driven by a decrease in unwanted pregnancies, and the delay in childbearing onset is sustained over many years. These fertility changes coincide with changes in cohabiting behavior. By 2016, or age 25 on average, female scholarship recipients are 12 percentage points less likely to report ever having lived with a partner, and by 2019, they are still 6 percentage points less likely to be married or cohabiting. The results for male scholarship recipients are similar while being less precisely estimated, but there is one notable difference between men and women. Among those who had started cohabiting by 2019, female scholarship recipients were more likely than those in the control group to be living with a highly educated partner, while the opposite is true for male scholarship recipients. The second key finding is that children born to female scholarship recipients were significantly more likely to survive. Among children born to females in the control group, 3.5% died before the age of 1, and 4.2% died before the age of 3. For children born to females in the treatment group, mortality rates were 1.7 and 2.0 percentage points lower. These are large effects and amount to a halving of under 1 and under 3 child mortality in this sample. The effects are less clear for children born to male scholarship recipients, with positive survival impacts for children born later in the sample period, but no effects for children born earlier. Finally, for children of female study participants, there are no significant differences in cognitive scores at lower age ranges, but an advantage emerges over time for children of scholarship recipients. By age 5, their aggregate cognitive score is on average 0.24 standard deviations higher, and by 7, it is 0.25 standard deviations higher. In contrast, there are no positive cognitive development impacts for children of male scholarship recipients. What explains these differences? An important factor appears to be the education of the child's primary caregiver, which, in most instances, is the mother. Children of female scholarship recipients are much more likely to have an educated caregiver, but this is not always true for the children of male scholarship recipients. In fact, male scholarship recipients who start cohabiting early tend to choose partners who are relatively less educated. And while there are many channels through which a caregiver's education might impact a child's well-being, the evidence here points to differences in parenting behavior. Female scholarship recipients seek more preventive care for their children and engage in more of the vocal and conversational parent-child interactions that help children develop. Thus, this paper shows that providing free education to one generation can benefit future ones as well. To evaluate the policy implications, the authors used their results to evaluate the cost-effectiveness of an at-scale program providing means-tested secondary education scholarships. They estimate that when accounting for both short and long-term effects, each dollar spent generates over $4 in benefits, with the majority comprised by benefits to the next generation. This underscores the importance of accounting for intergenerational effects when considering investments in secondary education. To read more on this topic, you can check out the paper's references to other related work. This includes research on the impact of maternal education on fertility, and papers studying the broader and intergenerational impacts of expanding access to education.